get your filthy hands off me." Dr. Marcus Reid didn't shout, but his voice was deadly calm as he stared at the hand gripping the fabric of his gray hoodie. "I said, stop!" The older man in the pristine white coat didn't let go. Instead, he shoved Marcus hard against the polished marble wall of the VIP elevator bank, the force of the impact knocking the air out of Marcus's lungs. "Are you deaf, boy? I told you 3 times deliveries go through the service entrance. Now get this trash out of my lobby before I call the police and have you dragged out." Dr. Richard Sterling, the chief of surgery, loomed over him, his face twisted in a sneer of absolute disgust. He didn't see a world-class cardiothoracic surgeon. He saw a young man in a hoodie and sneakers, and in his mind, that meant only one thing: threat. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Marcus straightened up, brushing Sterling's hand off his shoulder with a sharp motion. He could feel the adrenaline spiking, but he forced his heart rate to slow down. He checked his watch. Senator Wallace had been bleeding internally for 93 minutes. "Dr. Sterling," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the assault. "I am not a delivery boy. I am Dr. Marcus Reid. I was called here for an emergency consult on Senator Wallace's aortic dissection. Now, if you are done assaulting me, I have a patient to save." Sterling let out a short, cruel laugh. He stepped closer, invading Marcus's personal space, smelling of expensive cologne and arrogance. "You? A doctor?" Sterling looked Marcus up and down, his eyes lingering on the Nike sneakers and the black backpack. "Don't lie to me. I run this hospital. I know every surgeon on staff, and I certainly don't hire street thugs who dress like they are going to a basketball game." "I am an external consult," Marcus said, reaching for his back pocket to pull out his ID. "If you will just look at my credentials." "I don't want to see your fake ID." Sterling slapped Marcus's hand away before he could even withdraw his wallet. The sound of the slap echoed across the silent lobby. Dave, the night security guard, stood up from his desk, looking terrified. "Sir," Dave stammered, "that's Dr. Reid. He's here for—" "Shut up, Dave," Sterling screamed, not breaking eye contact with Marcus. "This is a secure facility. We have a United States Senator upstairs, and I will not have security risks wandering the halls." He turned his head, veins bulging in his neck. "Security. I want this man removed from the premises immediately. Use force if necessary." 2 younger guards, who didn't know Marcus, came running from the corridor, hands hovering over their tasers. Marcus held up both hands, palms out, signaling he wasn't going to fight. But he didn't back down. He locked eyes with Sterling. "Dr. Sterling, you are making a mistake. A fatal one. Senator Wallace has a type A dissection. Every minute we waste on your ego is a minute he loses. Check your phone. Dr. Okafor sent you my profile." "I don't need to check anything to know you don't belong here," Sterling spat. "Get him out. Now." Marcus didn't get on the elevator. He walked to the waiting area near the elevator bank. He sat down in one of the leather chairs. He pulled his phone out. If Senator Wallace was going to die because of one man's pride and prejudice, Marcus wanted a record of what happened next. He was typing out a message to Patricia when Sterling's phone rang. The chief of surgery was still standing in the middle of the corridor, watching to make sure Marcus actually left. He glanced at his phone screen. His expression shifted from irritation to something closer to alarm. He answered quickly. "What?" Sterling barked into the phone. Even from 20 feet away, Marcus could hear the voice on the other end. Patricia Okafor didn't sound calm anymore. She sounded terrified. "Richard, where is Marcus Reid?" Sterling glanced toward Marcus, then turned his back, lowering his voice. "I sent him away. He showed up looking completely unprofessional, hoodie, backpack, like he was going to a gym, not a surgical." "You did what?" The shout was loud enough that both security guards heard it. They looked at each other nervously. "Patricia, calm down. I have Dr. Morrison and Dr. Chen prepping the patient right now. They're both excellent surgeons, and they—" "Richard, listen to me very carefully." Patricia's voice had gone deadly quiet. "The man you just sent away is Dr. Marcus Reid, Johns Hopkins undergraduate summa cum laude. Yale School of Medicine, top of his class. He performed the first successful pediatric aortic valve reconstruction in the Western Hemisphere at 25 years old. He's published 47 papers on cardiovascular surgery. He is here as a personal favor because Senator Wallace's regular surgeon is in London, and Wallace specifically asked for the best cardiothoracic surgeon on the East Coast. That's Marcus Reid. The color drained from Sterling's face. He didn't look like what, Richard? Patricia's voice cracked like a whip. He didn't look like your idea of what a surgeon should look like. Senator Wallace is coding. His pressure is dropping. I need Marcus in that operating room right now, or we're going to lose a United States senator, and you are going to explain to the board, the press, and Wallace's family why you turned away the one person who could have saved him. The line went dead. Sterling stood frozen for a moment, his hand still holding the phone to his ear. Then, slowly, he turned around. Marcus was still sitting in the waiting area, scrolling through something on his phone. He looked up calmly as Sterling approached. Dr. Reid. Sterling's voice was different now, still controlled, but with a thread of panic running underneath. There appears to have been a misunderstanding. Marcus said nothing. He just waited. Sterling cleared his throat. Perhaps you could come up to the surgical floor after all. As a consultant, our team is very capable, but an extra set of eyes never hurts. And given your credentials... The word came out like he was chewing glass. Your input could be valuable. Marcus stood slowly. He slid his phone into his pocket. A consultant? Yes, you could observe, offer suggestions. Dr. Sterling. Marcus's voice was quiet but firm. Senator Wallace doesn't need suggestions. He needs a full sternotomy, aortic graft replacement, and hypothermic circulatory arrest to repair the tear before it extends into the arch. You have maybe 40 minutes before he develops irreversible brain damage from inadequate perfusion. Sterling's face went rigid. My team has performed hundreds of cardiac surgeries. Type A dissections, how many? Silence. I've done 62, Marcus said. Survival rate 91%. So I'll ask again. How many Type A dissections has your team successfully repaired? Sterling's mouth opened, then closed. His face flushed red. We don't need your arrogance, Dr. Reid. What we need is... A piercing alarm cut through the air. Red lights began flashing along the corridor ceiling. Both men turned toward the surgical wing. A nurse in blue scrubs burst through the double doors at a run. Her face panicked. Dr. Sterling! He's crashing! Blood pressure 60/40 and dropping! Sterling's face went white. He spun. He ran toward the surgical wing. Marcus followed. They ran down the corridor. Sterling in the lead. Marcus 3 steps behind. The double doors flew open. They entered a pre-op area. Through another set of windows, Marcus could see the operating theater. Senator James Wallace lay on the table, his chest already prepped and draped. Dr. Morrison, a nervous-looking man in his 40s, was pressing his hands against the senator's chest. Blood was seeping through the surgical drapes. Report, Sterling shouted as he burst through the doors. We opened the chest and got initial exposure, Morrison said, his voice shaking. The dissection is worse than the imaging showed. It's extending into the arch. We tried to clamp proximally, but the tissue is too friable. Every time we touch it, it tears more. We're losing him, Richard. Marcus reached the doorway to the operating theater. One of the security guards from before stepped in front of him, blocking his path. Sir, you can't move, Marcus said quietly. The guard looked past Marcus to Sterling. Sterling was now at the operating table, staring down at the open chest cavity with an expression of growing horror. Dr. Sterling, the guard called. Does he have permission to... Sterling didn't even look up. His hands were shaking as he reached for an instrument. He can observe. From the gallery. He pointed upward without looking. Up those stairs. Stay out of the way. Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. He looked at Sterling, then at Senator Wallace's gray face, then back at Sterling. Dr. Sterling, he said clearly, you are making a mistake that will end your career. Let me save this man's life. Sterling's head snapped up. For a moment, their eyes met across the operating room. Then Sterling's face twisted into something ugly. "I don't take orders from people who dress like they're going to a rap concert," he said coldly. "Now get up to that gallery and stay quiet, or leave my hospital. Those are your options." The room went silent. Every nurse, every surgical tech, every person in scrubs was staring at Sterling. Marcus looked at him for a long, long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Understood," he said quietly. "I'll be in the gallery. When you're ready to stop playing God and start being a doctor, you know where to find me." He turned. He climbed the stairs to the observation gallery. Behind him, he heard Dr. Morrison's shaking voice. "Richard, his pressure just dropped to 50/30. We need to do something now." Marcus reached the gallery. He stood at the glass wall, looking down at the chaos below. He waited. The observation gallery was empty except for Marcus. It was a narrow room with 3 rows of cushioned seats facing a large glass wall that overlooked the operating theater below. The glass was spotless. The acoustics were designed so that observers could hear everything happening in the OR through hidden speakers. Marcus stood at the glass, arms crossed. He watched. Below, Dr. Sterling had taken over from Dr. Morrison. He was bent over Senator Wallace's open chest, hands working frantically. Blood pooled in the surgical field faster than the suction could clear it. "Clamp the aorta," Sterling shouted. "Where's the bleeding coming from?" Dr. Chen, a younger surgeon assisting on the other side of the table, shook his head. "The dissection is propagating. Every time we apply pressure, the tear extends. The tissue is like wet paper. Then we use a different approach," Sterling snapped. "Get me a vascular graft, 18 millimeter. Marcus's jaw tightened. 18 millimeter was too small. He could see that from up here. The senator's aorta was swollen from the dissection. They'd need at least a 22 millimeter graft, maybe larger. The scrub nurse handed Sterling the graft. He tried to position it. His hands were shaking now. Sweat dripped down his forehead despite the cool temperature of the OR. "It won't seat properly," Morrison said nervously. "Richard, maybe we should—" "I know what I'm doing." Sterling's voice was rising. He forced the graft into position. He reached for sutures. The monitor above the operating table began to alarm. The steady beep of the heart monitor was becoming irregular. "VTOC," the anesthesiologist called out from the head of the table. "Heart rate 180 and climbing." "Starting to fibrillate," Dr. Chen said, his voice tight. Sterling's suture slipped. The graft shifted. Blood surged into the chest cavity. "Suction! I need more suction!" 2 nurses moved in with suction catheters. The blood was coming too fast. Marcus could see Sterling's face going pale. He could see the precise moment when the chief of surgery realized he was in over his head. That was when the doors at the back of the gallery opened. Marcus turned. A woman in her 60s entered first, wearing an elegant gray suit. Dr. Helen Frost, chairman of the hospital board. Behind her came 7 more people, 3 men and 2 women in business attire, clearly board members, then 2 people with cameras, press, and finally a woman in her 50s with perfectly styled blonde hair and red eyes from crying. Mrs. Catherine Wallace, the senator's wife. Dr. Frost stopped when she saw Marcus standing alone at the glass. Her eyes widened slightly in recognition. "Dr. Reid," she said quietly. She moved toward him. "We were told you'd be performing the surgery." Marcus kept his voice low. Dr. Sterling had a different idea. The other board members filed in behind Dr. Frost, taking seats in the front row. The 2 reporters set up their cameras on tripods, pointing down at the operating theater. Mrs. Wallace stood frozen near the door, staring down at the scene below. Is that my husband?" Her voice cracked. "Why is there so much blood? What's happening?" Nobody answered her, because at that moment the heart monitor let out a long, continuous tone. "Flatline. He's in asystole," the anesthesiologist shouted. Mrs. Wallace's hands flew to her mouth. No. Below, Sterling ripped off his surgical mask. His face was pale and slick with sweat. "Paddles, charging to 200. A nurse rushed forward with the defibrillator paddles. Sterling placed them on either side of Senator Wallace's exposed heart. Internal defibrillation. The last resort when external shocks wouldn't work. Clear! The senator's body jerked as electricity coursed through his heart. The monitor stayed flat. Again, Sterling's voice was desperate now. 300! Clear! Another jerk, another long, terrible tone. Nothing. Epi, give me epi! Sterling grabbed a syringe from the instrument tray. He injected it directly into the heart muscle. Come on, come on. The monitor flickered, one weak blip, then flat again. Mrs. Wallace let out a sound that was halfway between a sob and a scream. One of the board members, a man with gray hair, stood up from his seat. Dr. Frost, he said urgently, what the hell is going on down there? Where's Dr. Reid? We were told he was the specialist for this procedure. Dr. Frost didn't answer. She was staring down at the operating theater, her face frozen in horror. Sterling stood over the senator's body, his shoulders heaving. He turned slowly. His eyes traveled upward to the observation gallery. He saw the board. He saw the cameras. He saw his career ending in real time. His gaze locked with Marcus's. For a long moment, they stared at each other through the glass. The monitors continued their flat, screaming tone. Mrs. Wallace was weeping openly now, her hands pressed against the glass wall. Sterling's mouth moved. Marcus couldn't hear him over the monitors and Mrs. Wallace's crying, but he could read the words on the chief's lips. Help me. Marcus didn't move. Dr. Morrison stepped forward, putting a hand on Sterling's shoulder. Richard, we need to call time of death. He's been down for 4 minutes. There's no... No! Sterling shoved him away. He spun back to the body, started chest compressions manually, his hands pumping directly on the exposed heart. I'm not losing him. I'm not... His hands slipped in the blood. He caught himself on the edge of the operating table, gasping. The scrub nurse touched his arm gently. Dr. Sterling. He looked at her, then back at the body, then up at the gallery again. This time his expression was different. The arrogance was gone. The superiority was gone. What was left was raw, desperate fear. He whispered something to the scrub nurse. She nodded. She ran toward the door. 10 seconds later, she burst into the observation gallery, nearly tripping on the stairs. Her mask was pulled down, her face streaked with tears. Dr. Reid. She was breathing hard. Please, Dr. Sterling asks if you can... She couldn't finish the sentence. Marcus looked at her, then at Dr. Frost, then at Mrs. Wallace. Mrs. Wallace had turned away from the glass. She was staring at him with desperate, pleading eyes. Please, Mrs. Wallace whispered. Please save my husband. Marcus pulled off his hoodie slowly, revealing a clean blue button-down shirt underneath. He folded the hoodie carefully. He set it on one of the gallery seats. Then he removed his backpack. He placed it next to the hoodie. How long has he been down? Marcus asked the nurse. 4 minutes, maybe 4.5. Marcus started down the stairs. Tell your anesthesiologist to prep for hypothermic circulatory arrest. Tell Dr. Sterling to step away from the table, and somebody get me a surgical gown and size 7 gloves. The nurse ran ahead of him. Marcus reached the OR doors. He pushed through. The room fell silent except for the flatline tone from the monitors. Every eye turned to him. Sterling stood at the operating table, his gown soaked in blood, his hands shaking. He opened his mouth to speak. Marcus walked past him without a word. He moved directly to the operating table. He looked down at Senator Wallace's open chest. Blood everywhere. The aortic graft placed incorrectly. Torn tissue. A heart that hadn't beat in nearly 5 minutes. Scalpel, Marcus said calmly. Large vascular clamps, hypothermia circuit, and somebody start internal cardiac massage. 100 compressions per minute. Move! The surgical team erupted into motion. A nurse pulled a fresh gown over Marcus's clothes. She snapped gloves onto his hands. Dr. Chen stepped forward. He began compressions on the senator's heart, his hands moving in a steady rhythm. Marcus took the scalpel. He began cutting away Sterling's failed graft repair. You, he said, pointing to Morrison without looking up. Call the blood bank. I need 6 units of O negative here in 3 minutes. You, he pointed to another nurse, get me a 22mm Dacron graft and a microsuture kit. Sterling hadn't moved. He stood 2 feet from the table, staring. Marcus glanced up at him briefly. "Dr. Sterling, you can either assist or leave, but if you stay, you follow my instructions exactly. Understood?" Sterling's mouth worked soundlessly. Then he nodded once. He moved to the opposite side of the table. Marcus looked back down at the senator's heart. "Let's get him back." Marcus worked in complete silence. His hands moved with a precision that seemed almost mechanical, but there was nothing robotic about it. Every movement was purposeful, controlled, the result of thousands of hours of practice and 62 previous cases exactly like this one. In the observation gallery above, the board members, reporters, and Mrs. Wallace watched in absolute silence. The only sounds were the flatline monitor and the quiet instructions Marcus gave to his team. "Stop compressions," Marcus said. Dr. Chen pulled his hands back. Marcus examined the heart, turning it slightly to see the full extent of the damage. The dissection had torn through the ascending aorta. It was beginning to extend into the arch, just as he had predicted. The tissue was fragile, damaged by nearly 2 hours of internal bleeding and 5 minutes without circulation. "Hypothermia circuit online," Marcus asked. "Ready," the anesthesiologist confirmed. "Drop his core temp to 18 degrees Celsius. I need 20 minutes of circulatory arrest to repair this properly." The anesthesiologist's eyes widened. 18 degrees? That's extremely aggressive for someone his age. Marcus looked up briefly. "It's also the only way he survives. Start cooling." The anesthesiologist nodded. He adjusted the controls. Through the cardiopulmonary bypass machine, the senator's blood began to be cooled to just above freezing. At 18 degrees Celsius, the brain could survive without circulation for up to 30 minutes. It was a technique used only in the most desperate situations. "Sterling," Marcus said quietly, "I need you to hold retraction here." He pointed to a spot near the aortic root. Sterling moved forward mechanically, his hands still trembling. He positioned the retractor where Marcus indicated. "Steady," Marcus said. "If your hands shake, you'll tear the tissue." Sterling's jaw clenched, his hands steadied. Marcus removed the botched graft that Sterling had tried to place. Blood welled up immediately. But now the hypothermia was slowing the senator's metabolism. They had time. Not much, but enough. 22mm Dacron graft, Marcus said. A nurse placed it in his hand. Marcus positioned it carefully, measuring twice before making his first suture. His microsutures were tiny, precise, each one placed perfectly to distribute tension across the damaged tissue without tearing it further. The observation gallery remained silent. Mrs. Wallace had her hands clasped together as if in prayer. Dr. Frost was leaning forward in her seat, barely breathing. One of the reporters had his camera zoomed in tight on Marcus's hands. "Core temp 18 degrees, the anesthesiologist reported. Circulatory arrest in 3, 2, 1. The bypass machine stopped. Senator Wallace's circulation ceased completely. His brain, his organs, everything was now in a state of suspended animation, preserved only by the extreme cold. Marcus had 20 minutes before irreversible damage began. He worked faster now, but still with perfect precision. The graft went in, suture by suture, 12 stitches to secure the proximal anastomosis. Then he moved to repair the tear in the aortic arch itself, his fingers moving in tight spaces that most surgeons would never dare to enter. 10 minutes, the anesthesiologist said quietly. Marcus didn't respond. His entire focus was on the needle, the thread, the damaged tissue, suture, pull, tie, cut, suture, pull, tie, cut. Sterling watched from across the table, his face ashen. He was seeing a master at work, someone operating on a level he would never reach. The humiliation of it was almost physical. 15 minutes. Marcus finished the arch repair. He moved to the distal anastomosis, connecting the graft to the healthy tissue below the dissection. 8 more sutures, each one perfect. 18 minutes. "Done," Marcus said. "Release the clamp, restart circulation." The bypass machine whirred back to life. Warmed blood began flowing through the new graft, through the repaired arch, into the senator's body. Everyone watched the heart monitor. The flat line continued. "Come on," Dr. Chen whispered. Marcus placed one gloved hand on the senator's cold heart. He's been too cold for too long. We need to warm him faster. Increase bypass flow to maximum and get me internal paddles, just in case. The anesthesiologist adjusted the machine. The senator's blood began to warm more rapidly. Still flatline. Core temp 20 degrees, the anesthesiologist reported. 22, 25. Marcus kept his hand on the heart, feeling for any sign of electrical activity. 28 degrees. A single blip appeared on the monitor, then another, then a weak, irregular rhythm. Sinus rhythm, the anesthesiologist shouted, weak but there. The irregular rhythm strengthened. The blips became steady beeps. The heart began to beat on its own, pumping blood through Marcus's perfect repair. Blood pressure rising, the anesthesiologist said, his voice filled with wonder. 60 over 40, 70 over 45, 80 over 50. In the gallery above, Mrs. Wallace collapsed into her seat, sobbing with relief. One of the board members let out a breath he'd been holding for 5 minutes. The reporter's camera kept rolling, capturing every second. Marcus stepped back from the table, examining the repair from every angle. No leaks, no bleeding. The graft was holding perfectly. Close him up, Marcus said to Dr. Morrison. Standard sternotomy closure, post-op monitoring for 72 hours. Watch for arrhythmias, but he should be stable now. He started to pull off his gloves when he heard a strange sound. A gasp. Marcus turned. Dr. Richard Sterling was leaning against the far wall of the operating room, one hand pressed to his chest. His face had gone gray, slick with sweat. His eyes were wide with pain and confusion. Sterling's voice was barely a whisper. I can't breathe. His legs gave out. He collapsed to the floor. Code blue, one of the nurses shouted. Dr. Sterling is down. Dr. Chen ran around the operating table. He knelt beside Sterling, checking his pulse. Thready and irregular, blood pressure dropping. He's having a cardiac event. Marcus closed his eyes briefly. He let out a long breath. Of course he is. He looked at Dr. Morrison. Can you handle the closure? Morrison nodded quickly. Yes, absolutely. Marcus walked over to where Sterling lay on the floor. The chief of surgery's eyes found his face, filled with terror. Please, Sterling whispered, don't let me... Marcus knelt down beside him. He checked his pupils, reactive. He felt for the pulse in Sterling's neck, weak and fast, classic signs of a myocardial infarction, probably brought on by the extreme stress of the last hour. One of the nurses leaned over Marcus's shoulder. Should we call for another surgeon? Marcus looked at Sterling's face, the man who had blocked him at the elevator, who had called him a delivery boy, who had let his racism and pride nearly kill a United States senator. The man who was now looking up at him with desperate, pleading eyes. Marcus stood. Get him on a gurney. Prep the cath lab. I'll do the angiogram and place any stents he needs. The nurse stared at him. You're going to save him? After what he... Marcus cut her off with a look. I'm a doctor. That's what I do. He turned to Dr. Chen. Help them move him. Gently. If he has a dissection too, any rough movement could kill him. 2 orderlies rushed in with a gurney. They carefully lifted Sterling onto it. Marcus walked beside them as they wheeled him out of the operating theater toward the cardiac catheterization lab down the hall. As they passed through the doors, Marcus glanced up at the observation gallery one last time. The cameras were still recording. Dr. Frost was on her phone, probably already calling the hospital's legal team. And Mrs. Wallace was standing at the glass, tears streaming down her face, one hand pressed to the window as if she could reach through and touch her husband. Marcus turned away. He followed Sterling's gurney into the cath lab. It was going to be a very long night. 1 hour and 47 minutes later, Marcus Reid emerged from the cardiac catheterization lab. He pulled off his surgical cap and gloves. Dr. Helen Frost was waiting in the corridor outside, along with 2 board members and a hospital attorney Marcus didn't recognize. Dr. Reid, Frost said. She stood quickly. How is he? Senator Wallace is stable. He's in the ICU, sedated. Vitals are strong. If there are no complications in the next 72 hours, his prognosis is excellent. And Dr. Sterling? Marcus dropped the used gloves into a medical waste bin. Minor myocardial infarction. I placed 2 stents in his right coronary artery. He'll need medication and lifestyle changes, but he'll recover. Frost nodded slowly. You saved both of them. Marcus said nothing. Dr. Reid, we need to discuss what happened tonight. The attorney stepped forward, holding a tablet. There were cameras in the observation gallery. The footage shows... I know what it shows, Marcus said quietly. Do you intend to file a complaint against Dr. Sterling? Marcus looked at the attorney, then at Dr. Frost. What I intend to do is go home, take a shower, and sleep for 12 hours. After that, we can talk about whatever you need to talk about. He started walking toward the elevators. Dr. Reid, wait. Frost hurried after him. I need to know. The video. Someone on staff has already posted it online. It's already being shared. By morning, this will be everywhere. Marcus stopped walking. And I need to know what you want us to do. The board can issue a statement. We can explain what happened, defend you publicly, condemn Sterling's actions. Dr. Frost, Marcus interrupted gently. What happened tonight was between Dr. Sterling and me, and between Dr. Sterling and his own conscience. I don't need you to defend me. I don't need a statement. I did my job. That's all. But he discriminated against you. He nearly caused a patient's death because of his own prejudice. That can't just be swept under the rug. Marcus turned to face her fully. I'm not asking you to sweep anything under the rug. I'm asking you to let me go home. You have footage of everything that happened. You have witnesses. Whatever decisions the board makes about Dr. Sterling's future, make them based on that, not based on what I want. He pressed the elevator button. For what it's worth, Frost said quietly, I'm sorry for what he said to you, for what he assumed about you. You deserve better. The elevator doors opened. Marcus stepped inside. Thank you, he said. But tonight wasn't about what I deserved. It was about what Senator Wallace deserved, and what Dr. Sterling deserved too, I suppose. The doors began to close. Even though he tried to destroy you? One of the board members called out. Marcus looked at them through the narrowing gap. Especially because of that, he said. The doors closed. 6 months later. The spring sun was warm on the courtyard outside Centennial Heights Hospital. A small crowd had gathered around a temporary stage set up near the main entrance. Reporters with cameras, hospital staff in scrubs and white coats, several patients in wheelchairs, and a surprising number of people who seemed to have come just to watch. At the center of the stage stood Marcus Reid, now wearing a tailored charcoal suit instead of a hoodie. Beside him were Dr. Patricia Okafor, Dr. Helen Frost, and Senator James Wallace. He looked healthy and vigorous, showing no signs of his brush with death 6 months earlier. Behind them, a large banner hung from the hospital's second floor. The Marcus Reid Center for Cardiac Excellence, grand opening. Senator Wallace stood at the podium, his wife Catherine beside him, holding his hand. 6 months ago, the senator said, his voice carrying across the courtyard, I nearly died in this hospital. Not because the facility lacked equipment or expertise, but because one man couldn't see past the color of another man's skin and the clothes he was wearing. The crowd was silent. Dr. Marcus Reid arrived at this hospital prepared to save my life. He was turned away, judged not by his credentials, but by his appearance. And when he was finally allowed to help, after I had already flatlined, after conventional wisdom said it was too late, he didn't refuse. He didn't hold a grudge. He saved my life. And then, impossibly, he saved the life of the man who had tried to humiliate him. Wallace turned to Marcus. This man represents everything a physician should be. Skilled, compassionate, and able to put the welfare of patients above personal grievance. Today we honor not just a surgeon, but a reminder that excellence has no dress code. That skill cannot be judged by appearance, and that sometimes the people we most need are the ones we're least prepared to see. Applause broke out across the courtyard. Marcus shifted uncomfortably, but accepted Wallace's handshake. Dr. Frost stepped to the microphone next. The Marcus Reid Center will provide advanced cardiac care to patients regardless of their ability to pay. Dr. Reid has personally committed to performing 50 pro bono surgeries per year, and the hospital has committed matching funds to ensure that life-saving cardiac surgery is available to everyone who needs it. More applause. Marcus spotted familiar faces in the crowd. Dave, the security guard who had waved to him that night, was there in his uniform, clapping enthusiastically. Several of the nurses from that night stood together near the front. Dr. Okafor was wiping tears from her eyes. And in the very back of the crowd, almost hidden behind a support column, Marcus saw a figure in civilian clothes. No white coat, no air of authority. Dr. Richard Sterling. He wasn't clapping, he just stood there, watching, his face hollow and exhausted. He was thinner than he had been 6 months ago. He moved carefully, like someone who had learned his body's fragility. After the hospital board had reviewed the footage and received statements from every witness, Sterling had been given a choice: resign immediately or face termination and a formal ethics investigation. He had resigned. His medical license had been suspended pending review. The last Marcus had heard, Sterling was working as a medical consultant for a pharmaceutical company, reviewing drug trials from an office, never touching patients. Their eyes met across the courtyard. Marcus held his gaze for a moment, then gave a single small nod. Sterling's face crumpled slightly. He looked down, then turned and walked away, disappearing into the parking lot. Senator Wallace was speaking again. Dr. Reid, would you like to say a few words? Marcus stepped to the microphone. The crowd quieted. I want to thank everyone who believed in second chances, he said. Not second chances for me. I never doubted myself. But second chances for medicine, for hospitals, for the promise that when you need help, the system will provide the best care possible, regardless of who delivers it. He paused, looking out at the crowd. 6 months ago, I walked into this hospital in a hoodie and sneakers because I had been at the gym when I got the emergency call. I could have gone home to change. I could have taken the time to look the part. But a man was dying, and every minute mattered more than appearances. Dr. Sterling made a mistake that night, a serious one. But I hope that what people remember isn't just his mistake. I hope they remember that medicine is bigger than pride, bigger than prejudice, bigger than any one person's failures. We all took an oath to do no harm. Sometimes the hardest part of honoring that oath is saving the people who tried to harm us. He stepped back from the microphone. The applause was thunderous. Catherine Wallace wiped her eyes. Dr. Frost was smiling, and somewhere in the crowd, someone started a chant. Dr. Reid. Marcus raised one hand in acknowledgement, then stepped off the stage. He had rounds to make, patients to see, and a surgery scheduled for 3 in the afternoon. He had work to do. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please like the video and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.